happy cheers because in Eureka, you can't hear us? My thing is on. Every
It's supposed
time.
You might need to get a little closer. Maybe try that. Sorry.
Because this is for you, Brian. There are going to be tears. There are going to be cheers because in Eureka, we love our sewer ordinances. That's why. We will start today with roll call. Just like we always do.
Mayor Seaman.
Here.
Councilmember Castellano.
Here.
Councilmember Messner.
Here.
Councilmember Arroyo.
Here.
Councilmember Burgell.
Here.
Councilmember Allison is absent tonight.
All right. Will you all join me, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Mr. City Attorney, do we have a report from our closed session?
Mayor, no final actions were taken in closed session.
All right. So now that we are ready to start the meeting, I usually do a pretty brief mayor's report, but today is going to be a little bit longer. Today will mark the 1-year anniversary of me joining the council. Also Leslie, and then everybody else has had a little bit longer. So I have written down a few things that have happened in the past year because I think that it's really nice to look back and see what can get done. And this is only a very small smattering of things that we have accomplished. And I'll start with a big one. It was quite an honor to return to Luat, to the Wiyot people. I think that's probably a highlight, and it's going to be a highlight for the rest of my term for sure. When I started, I was only here less than a month, and we hosted a delegation from our sister city, Kamisu, in Japan. We hosted our sister city delegation from Kamisu, Japan. And we currently have cherry trees in the newly named Kamisu Park. We also celebrated the 20th year as a Coast Guard city, and the city of Eureka finally won the Coastie City softball game. I can't take credit for that because I didn't play, but I heard it was we showed well that night. In our development services and economic development departments, we have a new zoning code, a new housing element, a new marketing firm to promote not just tourism but placemaking. We have introduced the Salt and Fog Fish Festival, hosted the second annual Eureka Street Art Festival, which was amazing. Friday night markets have now become a tradition in the summer for the city of Eureka after 2 years. And we have a new facade grant that's been offered to businesses to help them cover the cost of facade improvements and SEPTED improvements, which is crime prevention through environmental design. Our community services department, they are on fire. Just last weekend, they opened the newly restored Clara Mayberry Park at the library. I see Nick is here. CAPE and Uplift are doing great things for people who are finding ways to re-enter the workforce and housing. Their co-pilot program, a one-on-one mentor program, has 22 partnerships right now. The most recent Pathway to Payday graduated 23 participants, with 22 receiving a job or a second interview. And through new housing funding, the program has housed 30 previously houseless people since October. Eco Eureka is working hard to make Eureka a zero-waste community, starting with a baseline zero-waste survey, so if you've not taken it, please do. And Community Services has developed and selected, or will be selecting sometime right around now, our very first youth council. So we're going to have teenagers in here learning about how the city is run, and they will help us provide guidance to the city. And Community Services opened a quality preschool to provide subsidized care for our city employees, an additional child care option for people in the community who need it. Our Public Works Department has added new crosswalks and Public Works engineering, building, and planning. New crosswalks near Highland Park. that make that area safe for crossing the streets, which is really important because I got lots of calls about that when I first started. And I love to talk about this juxtaposition of Myrtle Avenue, where we had a huge issue that needed a quick fix, and they took care of that right away. And we also finished the 25-year project at the Waterfront Drive, which shows we can also be slow but tenacious. Code enforcement, working closely with EPD's problem-oriented policing team and the Sheriff's Department, a few weeks ago removed 11,580 pounds of garbage from the Greenbelt area south of 15th and M Streets. The Eureka Police Department continues to receive ongoing letters of appreciation for both the MIST and CSET teams. Our CSET team, in an effort to be even more proactive with many of the people they work with, partnered with St. Vincent de Paul and Eureka Main Street this year to host a resource fair in September. The police department produced a comprehensive study of our homeless population, and they're working on another one, which provides useful data to identify needed resources and services. Their volunteer car abatement team has towed well over 1,000 cars by now, because that was an accomplishment they made early in the year. And in April, 2 Eureka Police Department and Humboldt Bay Fire dispatchers, Mary Clark and Julie Trepanier, were awarded the 911 Dispatcher Award for providing life-saving instructions to children who called 911 for help. Our Humboldt Bay Fire is fully staffed, having hired 6 new firefighters and accounting for promotions and retirements. They've presented life-saving awards to 2 citizens for alerting residents of a house fire. They've been working on a number of community outreach programs and are currently developing a new strategic plan for the fire district. They've begun working on the Fallen Firefighter Memorial. And of course they, like every other department in the city, really stepped up during the public safety power shutoffs to make sure Eureka stayed safe and informed during the events. Some things I have worked on have included promoting the first Good Neighbor Week event, which several departments and community groups participated. Working with the local labor unions, we were offered Tools for Tots, a program that got a workbench, construction outfits, books, and activities to each nonprofit preschool in Eureka to promote the construction trades, and the Children and Family Initiative and Strategic Plan, which we'll hear more about today. And finally, the only constant anywhere is change, and we lost a few folks this year. Specifically, there are some department heads that moved on, so we said goodbye to our finance director, Wendy Howard, and our development services director, Rob Homeland. And that leads me to one of the biggest changes we've had to come to terms with this year, and that is the retirement of our city manager, Greg Sparks. So it wasn't a really popular movie, but has anybody here seen the movie Coen Brothers' Hail Caesar? It's ostensibly about a drama about stars in the golden era of Hollywood, and it has all kinds of drama. And you think it's going to be about George Clooney being kidnapped, but what it really is, the star of the show is Josh Brolin, who's the movie executive, who is constantly thrown challenges, and he remains totally unflappable through the whole thing, no matter how insane the problems get. And this is how I see Greg. Not only because he manages to remain fully in control no matter what problem seems to present itself, he also manages to blend into the process in a way that really lets his employees shine. Nobody thinks that the city of Eureka, he never made anybody think that the city of Eureka was about him. I really love that every department head has their own personality and their own kind of superstardom because you allowed for that. So with that, I will wrap up my end of the year, and I would like to move on to the more formal acknowledgement of City Manager Sparks' retirement. We have a proclamation, and we have asked Council Member Burgell to present it. She's not going to cry, though.
I'm not. Promise. I'm a rock. In recognition of Greg L. Sparks, December 17th, 2019. Whereas Greg L. Sparks was appointed to the position of City Manager for the City of Eureka on May 1st, 2014, bringing with him over 40 years of municipal management experience, and whereas under his leadership, A strong city team was established, enabling the city of Eureka to creatively address challenges with budget, infrastructure, and homelessness. And whereas the level of commitment and service brought to Eureka by Greg Sparks will forever be the benchmark for future efforts to grow and sustain a solid financial base, strong conservative and balanced budgets, and a culture of service that will allow the city to prepare for the future. And Greg's methodical and unflappable reaction to issues considered to be calamitous by some always provide the proper response that best suited the city of Eureka. And whereas in good times and in difficult times, Greg has dealt with a diverse range of people and provided courteous and comprehensive help to the city council members of the public and city staff, and has always been patient and understanding. And whereas Greg Sparks has provided invaluable leadership and guidance on many significant projects and challenges the city has faced during his tenure. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Pro Tem Kim Burgell, on behalf of the Eureka City Council and the Mayor, do hereby proclaim that the City of Eureka extends our sincere best wishes to Greg L. Sparks upon his retirement and gratefully appreciates his service to the community, for he has truly made Eureka a better place to work and live.
And we have a presentation as well for you. We have a few department heads as well who have asked to come up, so I would like to invite Chief Robertson from the Humboldt Bay Fire.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Manager Sparks. I have a plaque here from Humboldt Bay Fire that we'd like to present. I'll read it. City Manager Greg Sparks, thank you for your service to the City of Eureka and Humboldt Bay Fire Joint Powers Authority. Your support, leadership, vision, and commitment have not only benefited Humboldt Bay Fire and the people who work here, but also our community and citizens. Thank you for all you have done by being committed to community service through leadership, vision, and integrity.
Chief Watson.
Thank you, Mayor. And no, don't worry. I'm not gifting you a cheap bag from a trade show where I got this. So on behalf of the Eureka Police Department, I want to thank you for the support that you've shown towards public safety over the last 5+ years. I could truly say, being on the inside, that you have been a huge supporter. And every time that we've come to you with a need, you've done your very best to work with us to meet that need. And I also respect you because you'll make us justify why we're asking for what we're asking, and you ask good questions. And so you've taught me a lot You enjoy a lot of goodwill and respect at the Eureka Police Department, and appreciation again for your support over the years. And certainly I appreciate the opportunity that you gave me in 2017 to stand here today, the mentoring over the years, the example that you've set. You were a great boss to work for, and I have no doubt in my mind, even despite our challenges, if you look back over the 5 years, you're leaving Eureka better than you found it. And you've established a strong foundation with the city and your department heads and your staff, and you leave us in good hands. And so I want to thank you again. So what we have for you here is just a shadow box from the Eureka Police Department, our patch, one of our soft badges, our challenge coin, which you've only given a half dozen out in 6 or 7 years, just in recognition again of your service. Now, why there's a fidget spinner in the corner, I don't know. It must be a nod to your sense of humor. I didn't ask for that particular item, but anyways, this is for the city manager. Thank you for your service very much. And you want the chief? Okay.
And I'm sure that's the last you're going to have to endure tonight. No more. I'm just kidding. Do we have a public comment?
So our first public speaker that is signed up is Gary Lewis, followed by Cornelius Lowenstein.
I thought we were going to do this.
Good evening. My name is Gary Lewis. I want to thank you for the fantastic work on Clara Mayberry Park. It not only looks great, but it's the first time, truly, in 3 years that I have seen groups of children out there having a great time playing with their parents. It's amazing to see that. Never thought I would see that. Anyhow, incredible work. It was expensive, but it worked. Which brings me to the topic for this evening. In 2018, this council wrote a syringe ordinance which effectively bypasses regulation on the current needle exchange hatcher. It requires, quote, one-for-one exchange until which time needle litter has been mitigated. But the one-to-one exchange has been eliminated, supposedly because needle litter has been mitigated. The residents of Eureka can attest to just how well the needle litter has been mitigated. But at the same time, our city manager tells us that, quote, the city council does understand that there are a great deal of negative consequences to the neighborhood by having such a facility in close proximity to residences, businesses, the library, and the Ingomar. Really? Do you understand this? Then you will also understand that the city needs to foot the costs of those negative consequences. This is not a neighborhood issue. If the current unregulated exchange were moved to another neighborhood, the cost would simply shift to that neighborhood. The first expense that the city needs to consider is fencing on both sides of the needle exchange. I've been hearing about fencing for 2 years now, and nothing has happened. Just as fencing was required on both sides of Clara Mayberry Park, we need it for exactly the same reason. It'll be expensive, but it will work. Of course, the alternative is to enact effective policy to regulate the exchange and put the costs of any negative consequences squarely in the hands of those that operate the exchange. The first regulation to consider is a true one-to-one exchange, overseen by an independent, trustworthy third party. Several homeowners are even considering requesting reductions to their property taxes for the devaluation of their homes due to the direct consequences of the needle exchange. This will decrease the city's revenues, while the unregulated exchange will continue to increase the city expenditures on policing and security. The city cannot continue to have its cake and eat it too by pretending that an unregulated exchange will not cost any money. But until the city enacts that regulation, it needs to step up and pay for the negative consequences to whatever neighborhood the needle exchange is placed in. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, citizens. Making a playground next to the county library junkie safe is being hailed as a renovation. Acts of violence and intimidation against people living in that neighborhood are being belittled and shrugged off. Concerned family fathers, themselves born and raised here, are being scoffed at. Concerned business people are being told to leave. TripAdvisor has 0, as in none, positive reviews for Eureka in years. Our highest paid city employees are leaving the sinking ship. The issues you denied, condoned, and even fostered have this town in a stranglehold. The ever-expanding gas of crime, despair, and a bad reputation pushes the air out of the room. Empty storefronts and the modern outdoorsmen that occupy the boarded-up entrances now do their part. Let love lead, it makes you feel good, some kept saying. Now we see the consequences. The green elephant in the room, the money that the wheat industry used to bring, is dried up. Instead of innovative approaches to turn Eureka into a little Amsterdam of the West Coast and/or harness the opportunities that came and passed with the International Alexander von Humboldt here, you sold us out to the literally lowest bidder in the case of Verizon, Hatcher, Aegis, and the other beneficiaries of the status quo. If you would take the necessary self-inventory and take the rose-colored glasses off, you'd see that Eureka is drowning just like Seattle is dying. Courageous citizens take it upon themselves to care enough, to clean up, to get involved, and you take that for granted or even laugh at them, or worse. There's not a day going by in which the California homeless crisis is not a major headline in national news. A 26-year-old pregnant woman got killed by a homeless man. A business owner got diarrhea spilled all over her. This is not a regular housing crisis, but a major health, mental and physical health crisis. And we have many gruesome local examples from stabbings to arson and home invasions on a weekly basis. Your feel-good semantics are wearing thin, your past tactics and current agendas are being exposed, and just as much as you try to deceive us, sell us out, make us bend over, we will resist and hold those in charge to the principles of transparency, accountability, and responsibility. You not only ruin Eureka, but you also the future of our and your children. Shut Hatcher down. Pass strict city ordinances in regards to needle litter and distribution. Help your own city and its residents to reclaim public spaces and places as safe and enjoyable. That would be a good start to repair the trust and to rebuild the reputation and attractiveness of Eureka. In short, put Eureka first and make Eureka safe again. Thank you.
Our next speakers are James Graham, followed by Dallas Letterman.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I'm here for the same thing, needle litter, and I know I'm not allowed to ask questions, so I'm just going to say what's on my mind. I don't see how Hatcher can continue to operate when there's drug deals going on in broad daylight, people shooting up in broad daylight. 8 out of 10 times I've been by there, I've seen people shooting up behind a rig that parks right by their little office or whatever. Neighbors are getting threatened by them now. I don't understand how this can be allowed to continue. Is this a dream? This can't be reality. I mean, come on. Something's got to be done about this. Time and time again, we're up here saying the same thing. Nothing gets done. People are getting threatened by drug dealers. It's ridiculous. Yeah. That's all I got to say. I'm too nervous to say anymore. It's sickening.
Dallas Letterman.
How you guys doing tonight? I'm here for the same reason, needle litter. I normally don't come to these things, but recently, since I've moved, and I live in Fortuna, and I'm in Eureka a bunch. Since I moved back from Texas this last year, I've noticed so much needle litter. We were down at the public library here at Eureka, and we found 3 different syringes there. Now, I have 3 kids and two little ones at home, and this is my community. This is where I grew up. Like, when I was growing up as a kid, we never ever had to worry about this kind of a thing ever. I would be like running around at night, never had to worry about that kind of thing, or like or at a playground worry about getting stuck. But now like I really never really come to these things because it never really I don't really see the problem. Well, now I see an issue, and I kind of do worry about my kids getting stuck when they're in the playgrounds and parks. Down there at the right there by the liquor store in Fortuna, I think it was right there by Sport and Cycle. We were walking by, and my kid literally, hey, look, picked up a needle off the ground, and I freaked out. I was like, drop that right now. So, like, it needs to be addressed. I'm not sure how we're going to do it. I'm just here to express my concerns, so maybe something does get done. That's all we can do is try, right? Thank you for your time.
Next up is Harry Wilcox, followed by Anna Davison.
Good evening. My name's Harry Wilcox. I live on N Street here in Eureka, battling with the camps in Cooper's Gulch on my side. There's 5 of them now. And I appreciate the work that the police department and Officer Gagnon's doing, but I was shocked to find out that it takes them, they have to give 72 hours notice for an illegal camp. If I go out and sit in the middle of the park, they'll tell me to get out by dark. I don't know. But I basically come here tonight to, as always, I'm not going to point fingers at people. Who's to blame? I'm not going to say it's the council, laws, whatever. It's our fault. The voters. We vote every time for this garbage and then gripe about it. Well, we only get what we put in office. And obviously, we put people in there that can't do anything or don't want to do anything or just decide to turn a blind eye. As I said, I have a camp now that has to wait 5 days before they can do anything, and this guy's expanding. And I watched him today taking garbage bags and just throwing them. Cooper's Gulch is beautiful. I came here 13 years ago. That place was a wonder to me. I'm from New York City. The only thing we have close to that is Central Park. But it's been getting worse in the last, I'll be honest with you, since Hatcher opened, forget it. It's gotten worse. I know you guys closed 15th and M Street camp. All they did was move up. Like I said, you can find 5 of them right behind the skateboard park and the one right at the entrance to Cooper's. Now, I'm walking the walk and talking the talk because I'm the one that notified Officer Gagnon about the first camp there. There's also a dead raccoon in a have-a-heart trap, kind of cute, sitting on private property right by the edge of the road on M Street. And I called the Sheriff's Department. They can't do anything. It's private property. Meanwhile, this raccoon is decaying and just stinking, and it's not pretty to look at. Kids are going by it. So, yeah, I come here tonight and I figure it's our fault. We don't do anything. We don't say anything. We don't open our mouths. We don't come to meetings. You know, I'm one of the people that do. And it's frustrating to me to constantly be after you people because it's not all your fault. It's ours. We got lazy, we got complacent, and we stopped caring. Well, it's about time everybody got up off their butts, come from behind their safe house, watching everybody pee on their lawn with their cameras, and come to these meetings and get out there and press the flesh and see what's really going on because it's getting worse, not better, people. Good luck. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna Davison. I'm happy to be here tonight. I don't know how to follow all those comments because I was here a year ago because of needle litter. My son Nolan here had found a needle when we were at his big brother's Hoopsters tryouts in Eureka, and that bothered me enough to come and speak. But I didn't come here to talk about that. Tonight I came here just to say thank you for the Clara Mayberry Park. I am a 10-year resident of Eureka, and I've had a large family daycare here for 10 years. And I love the local library. I love the Humboldt County Library, and I take kids there. We go on Friday, and we have circle time or story time with with librarian Janine, and I take my sons Emmett and Nolan on Wednesday nights. They do great programming, but we could never play at the Clara Mayberry Park. I wanted to. I tried to. I had firefighters in the community tell me, like, please don't take the kids on that. There's so much yucky things there. And I would do safety checks, and I would find drug paraphernalia and vomit or poop and clothing and things. And so it was hard for us not to be able to play there. The kids would be super well behaved inside the library. They're quiet, they're calm, and then they'd go out there and see that playground and want to play, and we never could. So I'm just here to tell the city a great big thank you. Thank you to Donna and to Robin. I believe it was Mark or Jeff. They were all there. We went to the ribbon cutting. We were there. We saw Kim cut the ribbon. Nolan helped hold the ribbon, and he loves it. He asked me today if we could go back, and I will be using it. I will be using it with my daycare and my own children. I just think the changes you made were so simple. You put up a fence. You put on some paint to existing rock and cement structures. You took out a place, like a big structure people could hide in and do inappropriate things in. You put in simple structures that don't cost as much as having a big play structure. And when I was there for the ribbon cutting and the grand opening, I already saw children playing together in a positive way. They were working together to spin the spinning toys. There were children of different abilities and ethnicities playing, and I mean, they have the painted starfishes. They were already talking about tag and which one would be base for their games. So Nolan wants to say thank you. Do you want to say thank you? He said he would say thank you. But I'm really excited about this. I did not know this was happening tonight, your Family and Children Initiative, because having the daycare, I see that we need to keep our young families. They spend their money in Eureka. They clothe their families, they feed their families, they educate their families. That's a lot of money. And I don't want to see any more of my friends moving out of town because they don't feel safe here with their young children. So keep up the good work. I know you have momentum in the right direction. So keep going, and we'll see you again. And thank you for the park. Okay, let's go.
Next up is Fred Van Vleck, Donna Wright, followed by Charlotte McDonald.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Sparks. So I have a First Amendment right to come up here and say whatever I'd like this evening, isn't that right? So I'm not here to complain or to talk about any of the ordinances or anything like that, but it's always interesting when you're sitting in the seat there and wondering what the next person is going to say. And I was looking at the agenda. What a glamorous agenda to go out on. On the consent calendar, you have odor control. On the ordinances, you have sewer ordinances. And I'm thinking, what, was this planned or just apropos? Not quite sure about that. So, of course, there's the Children's and Families Initiative that's on there that is very worthwhile to be on your last agenda. And so I want to comment on that a little bit as well. So one of the things you always wonder when a city manager comes to town is, especially when they're from out of town, is how long are they going to stay and are they really going to like the area? And most importantly, is their wife or husband, whichever the case may be, going to like the area as well. And so when Greg came to us, he actually came to us as a package deal because his wife Mary came to work for Eureka City Schools as a nurse. And so we counted ourselves very lucky to have both him and his wife come to our community, and happy that they were able and willing to call this home, and they did that for 5 years. Another thing that I really wanted to point out and express my gratitude and appreciation for was his commitment to the 2+2 meetings that we had. And several of you up there have served on the 2+2 meetings, and that's where we have 2 council members, or now we have a mayor and a council member on the committee, along with 2 board members. And we get to talk about how we can work together to better the community. And one of the mantras that we've always talked about, and I think you've been a firm believer in this, and I really appreciate that, is this is about all of us, not just about the city of Eureka, not just about Eureka City Schools, not just about the police department or the hospital or all the different agencies that are out there. It's about coming together and working together to make this happen. And I think your subscription to that mantra was really a benefit and really a great help in moving things forward. And the last thing I'll say is the one thing that you always ask yourself when you're a public leader is, what kind of legacy am I going to leave when I retire or when I leave the city or the district or whatever job that you happen to be on? And the one thing that I believe, and I think Chief Watson already said this, and I just want to ditto what he said, is Greg has done a fine job of leaving the city in a better place than where it was when he started. So I just want to thank you and commend you for your service and wish you luck in your retirement.
Good evening, councillors, city staff. My name's Donna Wright. I'm the President CEO of the Greater Eureka Chamber of Commerce. Many don't realise that we are not a part of the city. We're actually a membership organisation that works for our members. We're funded by our members, and we work for the betterment of our business community. But enough about us. It's all about Greg tonight. On behalf of the Greater Eureka Chamber of Commerce, our staff, our committees, our members, we would like to thank you for 5 fabulous years. Unfortunately, I was only here for 2 of those. But what a start we had. As you know, relationships have their ups and downs, and we don't always agree, nor do we always do things the way that others want. But I can say with sincere conviction, our relationship over the last 5 years has been one of great respect. We've worked together for the common good and best interest of our community. We've shared ideas and expectations for each other, and we've made a difference. We've been a watchdog, we've been an inspirer. And I'm talking about that as being a two-way street. Personally, I would like to thank you for the 2 years that we've worked together. You've been supportive, given excellent guidance, and your Australian has improved dramatically. It can be said that without your ability to understand the great value of the relationships the Chamber has, we would not be in the position we are today. When we came to you as staff and board with our vision of opening Business HQ, we shared with you the concerns that we had, where we were, what we were doing, what we were benefiting our business community and our community as a whole. You and your staff understood that. You're excited by our vision, and without you, we would not have been where we are today. And I personally, eternally thank you for that. You've left us in good hands. I was lucky to be on the committee to view Dean as he was coming in. I think he's a wonderful candidate. And I understand he comes from wherever you came from. I will miss you. Our board will miss you. Our community will miss you. And we thank you for supporting us, our business community and our community at large, and wish you the very best in your retirement.
Mayor and council and Greg, what can I say? 5 years has gone by really fast. You came in and the city was really floundering at the time, and I can honestly say you're leaving it in such great shape. I personally thank you for the time that I've had to work with you. My board is really appreciative of the time that we've all had to work with you. This is just a little, because you're not going to be, you're going to be traveling and stuff. So we just wanted to give you a little something to say thank you. And in here is also something for Anne. But I really, I'm sorry, David Tyson, but I really do honestly mean it when I say you are the very best city manager that I've ever been fortunate enough to work with. And that doesn't mean that David wasn't good, because he was damn good, and especially for the years that I worked with him. But Greg, working with you on issues that are hard to tackle, homelessness, crime, a lot of different things. You were always there for me as a sounding board, and we were always able to bounce ideas off of each other, although I think I bounced more than you did. Anyway, I just want to say thank you for the honor and the privilege to work with you for the last 5+ years. I will miss you until you get back from your holiday vacation. So thank you, Greg. My very best to you, and my board says thank you.
Next up, we have Nick Wills. I'm going to butcher this last name. Wilczek?
Yeah,
and followed by Betty Chin.
Okay. Hi, my name is Nick Wilczek. I'm the director of the Humboldt County Library, and I also want to thank you all for the renovation of the Claire Mayberry Park. In particular, the Community Services Department, Miles, Robin Prasker, Donna Wood have all been really fantastic to work with. It was great seeing council members Burgell and Castellano at the grand opening. It was also wonderful seeing Chief Watson there. So thank you. A lot of folks think that's the library's park. And so, one, it's wonderful to be able to tell people that's the city's park, and they've done this wonderful job working on it, and it's felt like a real partnership to some extent. So, again, I just want to say thank you for that. It really is a huge benefit to the library. It's a huge benefit to the neighborhood. And also, just because I'm up here, I would like to give a really public thank you to, again, Chief Watson and the entirety of the CSET team. I'm fortunate enough to work with LaFrance and Gagnon and Ross a whole lot, and that whole team has been really vital to the improvements we've had at the library as well. So thank you all, and congratulations on your retirement. So thank you.
Tough. Congratulations for your new journey. Because of you, I learned how to partnership with government. I never agree with anybody. I'm very impatient. I not listen to anybody. But you teach me a lot. You do so much for our city. I hope you bring all the members what you done for our city in here. One fan is in Pogo Marsh. I hope you carry that memory. I will to share with my grandson. You've done an absolutely wonderful job. You not even held the investment farmer, care for them, and also you create a job for them. The pathway to payday, uplift. This is absolutely outstanding project for anybody to learn from you, your leadership. And as a matter of fact, a couple of days ago, I had a young man from Canada. They just want to know how we so successful work with the city. And I showed them around. I walked through the walk, Pogo Marsh walk, and I tell you what, I still had goosebumps. I still hear the people talking in there in the old time, crying, yelling, screaming, gunshot. But this time when I walk by there, so peaceful. I find peace for myself and for all the people walk through this trail. And thank you very much, and a good journey. Thank you.
Mayor, we have Wade Long who's signed up.
Normally I come up here and I ask you about the needle litter and the junkies and the handout down there. I'm not going to. I know you don't care because they let you harvest the homeless vote. You're doing nothing about it. I'm here to ask you about your own words. You, Kim Burgell, 2 years ago, you said that in 6 months you were going to review the idea of why the library is allowed to be so, or why the needle handout is allowed to be so close to the public library. You can't have a bar within 1,000 yards of it. Why are you allowing drug deals and needle handouts right next to the library and the playground? You said you're going to bring it up in 6 months, 2 years ago. Madam Mayor, you wanted to brag about the things that happened in the last year, picking up 5.5 tons of garbage, while you've basically turned Eureka Police Department into the most heavily armed maid service for the homeless. Not letting them do anything about the problem, just going out and picking up the garbage. Brag about that.
Is there anybody else who wants to make a public comment?
Hi, I'm Paul Nicholson. I'm known around the county as the 911 guy because I go by and I teach all the kids how and when to dial 911. And my passion is the children. As you can see, I have an actual California plate that says that. But the reason I'm here today is because with the power outages, my daughter, who is a teacher, pointed out to me how vulnerable they were with no communication, with the cell phones and the intercoms not working and everything else. So as you saw with Senator McGuire when he was in town with his ACES conference, I caught a hold of him and I talked to him about getting radios for all the teachers in the state of California and the support staff. Chief Watson, I've talked to him. I've talked to the chief of Arcata, the chief of Fortuna. I've been Superintendent Van Fleck and Superintendent Hartley and a lot of other people. They're very much in favor of him doing something like that to kind of arm him. So I've written a letter that gives you an idea what my talking points are to the senator. He was going to call me on December 23rd, which I thought was rather unusual, and it did get changed to January 3rd, which sounds more reasonable, and so he's going to give me a call. And so if you like the idea, I've given you some my talking points for the senator, and Pam, I've also given you a copy of what I hand out to the children at the school, and I can guarantee you when you read that, there'll be something on there that you'll learn. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate the city backing me and all the schools allowing me to go to all the way from Blue Lake to Trinidad to Rio Del and all the schools in between, because the child safety is it. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I don't have my name down, but I'm Brandy Wheeler, and I'm here actually as a citizen tonight. And I just want to, first of all, I want to thank Mr. Sparks for your time here, and congratulations on your retirement. I hope to retire too someday. I just want to take a moment to thank the City of Eureka for Clara Mayberry Park, for your attempt to be inclusive of our very special children. Very briefly, I have a 14-year-old autistic and mildly intellectually disabled son. I was a single parent to him for 10 years. I have traveled this country from Dothan, Alabama, to Chicago, to Americus, Georgia, to Atlanta, and now to Eureka. Always seeking that next level of care for him. And the final thing that we were missing was a community. Sorry, I'm going to try not to cry. Even moving home, which was to Americus, Georgia, I did not find that community that he and I needed. And how apropos that this city is named Eureka. Eureka, exclamation point. While my son has outgrown the equipment at Clara Mayberry Park, the inclusivity of this community he will never outgrow. Eureka is our home, and I just want to give a special thanks to Donna Wood, Robin Prasker, Joseph Carter, Jeff Ramey, Greg Auburn, and every one of our community services and Parks Department. Thank you.
Oh, my thing hasn't been on. Sorry. Did y'all hear me? Any more public comment? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the consent calendar and ask if there's anything that needs to be pulled from the consent calendar. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent?
I'll make a motion. Second. I don't think, are my working? They are working.
If we talk like this, are they audible out there, folks? Okay.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Everybody can vote. All right.
4 yes votes, Councilmember Allison absent, motion carries.
Right on. Moving on to ordinances and resolutions. I would like to invite up. Oh, okay. Deputy Director. To come and do our second reading of this, I think. No? The revisions.
Good evening. We're here to do the second reading of Chapter 50, the City Sewer Ordinance. There's only been one minor revision that was pointed out, I believe, by Councilmember Castellano. There was a duplicate sentence in section, I believe it was, got a sticky here, 50.209. There was a sentence that was immediately duplicated. It was a typo, so we corrected that. Other than that, the ordinance remains the same. Again, the ordinance is intended to reduce inflow and infiltration into the city sewer system. There's a variety of things that go along with that, including shifting responsibility for part of the sewer lateral from the public side to the private side. We had a long discussion about that last time. So all of that remains in effect, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Do you have any questions? All right. Do we have any questions or comments from the audience? Seeing none, I will bring it back for discussion or motion.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and waive reading, read by title only, and adopt bill number 908-CS, an ordinance of the City of Eureka amending Chapter 50 of the Eureka Municipal Code.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion?
I do have
we do have a discussion.
just a comment. So since this will have some impact on people in our community, could you talk about what kind of outreach we might be doing to let people know about this and what the plan is moving forward?
Yes, so we've begun drafting information. There will be a page on the city's website under Public Works. There'll be a link on the homepage that goes through kind of frequently asked questions, really boiled down basics of what the ordinance does, especially with regard to things that have changed in terms of who's responsible for what parts of the sewer system as far as the lateral goes. We do plan to put together that same fact sheet to outreach to the plumbing supply houses, to have a stack of them there on the counter so when the plumbers are coming in, because a lot of times they're the homeowner's sort of first point of contact between the homeowner and the city when it comes to problems with the sewer. So outreaching to the plumbing contractors, city newsletter, and any other sort of outlet that we can get a hold of, press releases, things of that nature.
Can I just also recommend like building trades organizations and things like that, because I imagine most people will encounter this when they're going to do some big building project valued at $50,000 or more, and then they will find that, oh, and I also need to make sure that my sewer is working properly, and my lateral is configured appropriately and isn't broken, etc. So that would be great.
Yes, and we do have, I believe, 30 days from the time it's adopted to the time it goes into effect. So that's when we plan to roll out a lot of that information.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any more discussion?
Oh, just real quick. I know it's been mentioned that we'll look into possibilities for providing low interest loans or funding for people, and just that I am excited that may be a possibility, because I know this will be an added expense that some people won't be expecting.
All right. So we have motion, we have a second, we've had discussion, we all good? All in favor?
4 yes votes, Councilmember Allison absent, motion carries.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is one that was obviously very special to me. Last year when I started this position, it became quickly apparent to me, I probably should have known even before I started, that identifying ways to make Eureka more attractive for children and families was going to be a priority for me. But the question was, and when we all talked about it, it was clear that that the consensus in the city was like, yes, we do want to do this, but what does that mean? And so I knew we had to identify first, what is it like to raise a child in Eureka? And I also knew that the programs and policies that are most associated with children and families are often done with programs and organizations outside of the city of Eureka. So when I started talking about it and we decided we wanted to do it during our visioning session, we decided that rather than assigning it to a department, I would take this on and get an overview of the resources for children and the roles we can play at the city to support those resources. So here are some things that I learned. Simply creating a culture where children and family are at the front of our mind creates an infusion of projects and policies that are insinuated throughout the city. So I have a favorite example of this. When we first started talking about it, I was talking to Connie Stewart, who used to be a member of Arcata City Council, who inadvertently, when she was on the council, made an ordinance that made child care illegal in neighborhoods, which they immediately fixed. But she said we weren't even thinking about it. So I was telling this story as we were working on our zoning code, and our development services director said, should I just put child care in as principally permitted in neighborhoods? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. And so it was so simple, and there was not a lot of, it wasn't a huge ordinance. It wasn't something we had to go through. It was just something that fit what we were already doing, that he wouldn't have thought about if we weren't talking about it. At the same time, we started having community meetings, large community meetings about housing. We were bringing in when our marketing services gave their report, and on-site child care is now included when we have large community meetings so families can participate at the city level. And these are things that just happen simply because we're talking about it. And it truly takes all of us working together to create a family-friendly community. So just as the city needs to promote what we do and to do as much as we can, we also need to partner with other organizations and jurisdictions. So one example of this is Eureka City Schools. Sometimes their after-school programs are impacted, but we offer fabulous after-school programs at the city. So we're working with the school district to get kids transportation so that our parents have childcare until they get off of work. And this is all really important stuff. So it has been a joy. It's been an honor to talk to people for the last year about the challenges and opportunities of having a family in Humboldt. And so now that it's done, I'm looking forward to actually getting some work done towards our plan. And now I would like to invite my partner, who has helped me with this all through it, Allie Heemstra. She's been researching and putting together our awesome initiative, which you can find on the counter if you don't have one yet, and she will tell us a bit about it.
Met me, my name is Allie Heemstra, and I am a marketing consultant, and I'm also a former elementary teacher. So it was an absolute honor to partner with Mayor Seaman on this project. What you have before you is a culmination of 37 interviews, 211 survey respondents, countless hours of research, and so many individual voices from our community and our city leadership who are passionate about making our community a thriving community for families and children. Before I give an overview of the strategic plan, I want to mention a few things. First, this strategic plan is broad and it covers many complex issues. And that was an intentional choice because when it comes to families and children, the issues are complex and broad. It's not intended to be a static set of policies to implement, but it's rather designed to be a roadmap to help all of us move together and helping children from a whole child perspective. While this strategic plan does have over 47 action items and tangible things we can do moving forward, it also is intended to highlight the good work and initiatives that are already happening in our community that we can continue to champion. I'm really excited to present this strategic plan to you, members of the council, because each of you have an important part to play as we continue to make decisions to help our community thrive. I wanted to share this quote that I came across in the beginning of my research from the National League of Cities. City leaders have a stake in how well children in their cities are doing. Investing early will mean better academic outcomes, less crime, better health outcomes, a more prepared workforce, increased earnings, and less spending on social services long term. When our children thrive, our cities thrive. We in Eureka know that we have a lot of assets, but we also have some unique challenges that we face in our community, and I wanted to highlight some of those. 31% of our children have 4 or more adverse childhood experiences. This is hard to read when we see that the national average of kids who have 4 or more ACEs is 12.5%. For those of you who are not familiar with adverse childhood experiences or ACEs, a lot of research has been done that indicates when children grow up with situations of abuse, neglect, or family dysfunction, it actually impacts their development. And exposure to that toxic stress can lead to what our state Surgeon General, Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, mentioned as the root cause to many of our greatest public health challenges that we face today, including heart disease, suicide, learning disabilities, and substance abuse, just to name a few. When our children have especially 4 or more, there's a huge increase in the risk for some of those challenges. Another thing that emerged as we were having conversations and looking at the research for our specific local area is that many of our parents struggle to find adequate childcare. A survey done by First 5 revealed that 76% of working families who need childcare struggle to find the licensed qualified care that they need. And in our own personal research, 1 in 4 of our survey respondents mentioned that they are not in the childcare setting that they prefer for their kids. One other element to consider, and this is not necessarily unique to Eureka, but it certainly plays a role in how our families and children thrive, is that the professionals that are working with our kids day in and day out, while they love what they do and are doing amazing work, are often not supported in the degree that they need. Preschool teachers in California earn $42,000 less a year than elementary teachers, and we know that elementary teachers aren't getting paid enough either. This leads to high turnover rates and underqualified care for our kids. When we look at these statistics, it can feel overwhelming and might seem beyond what the city of Eureka can really take on. I felt daunted by some of this research as I came across it. But then I got to talk with several individuals in our community, including each of our department heads and several other people who are child care experts. And it was so inspiring. Every single department head person came to that interview with thoughts about how to help our community move forward and is intentionally and in inspiring ways helping make our community better. And I got to work alongside Mayor Seaman, who has this passion for making those small changes, and even sitting here tonight, things like the park initiative and the work that our police force does is making those small impacts, and we know that that can turn the tides and change the narrative for our community. There's other exciting research when it comes to thinking about how to invest in kids. We know from research over decades that for every dollar spent on early childhood, there's a return of investment of 7 to 10% annually, which is really exciting. And children who receive early childhood education are much more likely to be able to graduate from high school and college, go on to earn 33% more in their annual salaries, are able to give back to their communities in greater ways, and live healthier lives. For our children who have those high risks, those adverse child experiences, that is not a death sentence for them, because we know that when we are able to show up and give trauma-responsive care and teach practices of resilience and provide some extra supports for them, we can see from research that there's a huge decrease in being, violent crime, needing special education, teen pregnancies, and some of the health risks that I mentioned before. So there's really exciting things not only for those individuals and those families, but there's a broader impact for our community as well. When we create systems of support for our families, there's a huge benefit to our workforce and our economic development, as well as employee engagement and more. So that is why our mission through this strategic plan is to be champions of families and children in Eureka. Our strategic plan has 4 main goals. The first one is for the staff here in the city of Eureka. We want them to understand how their individual department affects families and kids, and also to be able to connect that to the economic and community impacts they have when we choose to invest in children. We want families to not only move to Eureka, but to stay in Eureka, recognizing it as a family-friendly community. And we want the organizations and professionals who are supporting families and kids to feel supported by our city and have the resources they need to succeed. And finally, we want the city of Eureka to be a trauma-responsive community with a robust network of support, both from the grassroots and the policy level. I'm going to give a broad overview of this strategic plan, but if you haven't looked over it yet, it's pretty hefty, and I won't be able to go through each individual item. But I did want to share a little bit about how we structured each of the action items. We broke it down into 7 focus areas, which I will be going over in a minute. But we have some delegations as far as the timeline in which we hope to accomplish these action items. Some are things that we delegated as right now projects or action items, things that we can carry out in the next 2 to 3 years. There are a few other items that are going to take a little more planning and possibly a little more budget, and so we delegated those as down the road items that we can accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years. And in our conversations and in our research, we came across some challenging systemic issues that are bigger than just us and not going to be solved overnight. But we wanted to leave them in the strategic plan as important talking points we don't want to shy away from. So those are delegated as big ideas for systemic challenges. Another way that we broke down each of the action items is by responsibility level. There are some things that the city will take on as projects. There are others where we can partner with other organizations that are also carrying out the same initiatives. And there are other action items or initiatives that other organizations are doing that we can do a good job of promoting. So I'll give you a few examples of the specific action items, but as I mentioned, there are 47, and we don't want to be here till 10. So in the focus area of neighborhood safety, we want to have a right now project that is starting an Adopt a Block program, which will encourage and train neighborhoods to conduct need assessments, organize regular cleanup days, and maintain a neighborhood watch program. This is something that the city can initiate and promote, but also partner with the individual neighborhoods that are wanting to implement one on their block. An example of a down the road item is in the category of parental and family support. We want to improve the online and hard copy versions of the family resources directory to be more user friendly and accessible, and also put that resource on the City of Eureka website. We initially thought this could be a right now item, but in talking to our stakeholders, we realized this is a much larger and more complex project that we really want to do well. So we put that in the down the road category. And an example of an action item that we delegated as a big idea for systemic challenges was in the category of healthy children. Several of our interviewees mentioned the importance of dental care and how instrumental that is to the health of children. So we want to find effective and affordable ways to provide better access to dental care for families. Again, this is not something we can solve overnight, but we want to be looking for opportunities. And as Mayor Seaman mentioned, sometimes when it's just a part of the conversation, those solutions emerge. So let's go through the different focus areas, and you can follow along either in the strategic plan. This will also be on the City of Eureka website later this week on the mayor's page, so you can reference this at a later time as well. So our vision for the neighborhood safety is that Eureka families would feel a sense of belonging, security, and hope within their neighborhoods, in our public spaces, and throughout the community. The neighborhoods and environments that our kids grow up in greatly impact their growing up experience. And in a lot of ways, Eureka is a wonderful place to grow up. But in our survey and in a lot of our conversations, we did hear that many parents do not feel a sense of safety or a peace of mind when it comes to their neighborhoods. On the other hand, we heard from a lot of our city leaders that there is slow but real impactful change happening to actually make our city safer. So we want to hold both of those in mind as we move forward and find projects to create lasting change. And something that is the most effective when it comes to helping our neighborhoods feel safe is implementing those grassroots efforts through what Chief Watson mentioned that he implements with his police force, which is to change our perception one positive interaction at a time. Our next focus area is parental and family support. And our vision is that Eureka would invest in young children and parents and have a rich network of support that is well known, accessible, and easy to use. We have so many organizations, and many of them are in the room tonight. They are doing incredible work for our families. One important step we need to take is to de-silo some of those efforts and be able to provide more centralized access for those family services. Another angle we need to consider when we're talking about parental and family support is the benefits and the policies that our employers have for their employees. The City of Eureka has been doing some really instrumental work and a proactive leader in having a great benefits package and even offering subsidized childcare to their employees, but many people in the private sector continue to struggle in that aspect. The next focus area is supporting our diverse families. We want support for families who need it most, including our families of low incomes, people of color, immigrants and refugees, individuals with disabilities, and the LGBTQ community. We want to make sure that our support is prioritized and that policies are responsive to the diverse and changing needs of our families. Research indicates that when children grow up in diverse environments, they are more compassionate, open-minded, and resilient. So we need to be intentional about creating inclusive policies and environments and enhancing the culturally rich experiences that we can have here in Eureka. We also need to understand why underrepresented populations are not being hired in city positions or being elected to positions of leadership, and be able to work to change that story here in Eureka. The next focus area is childcare access and needs, and our vision is that Eureka parents would have affordable access to quality childcare, including those with uncommon working areas. There's so much research that has shown the positive impacts of high-quality childcare and what it has on the overall success of children. And there's a ripple effect on the workplace productivity and economic gains, and that makes improving access to childcare a wise investment for our city. We need to make sure that all parents are able to find the type and afford the type of childcare they need for their kids in that season of life. On the other side of that, our next focus area is supporting the childcare industry. And our vision is that we want our childcare providers to feel supported by our city policies and to have access to the resources they need to provide best practice care. 90% of brain development happens in the first 5 years of life, which means that our early childhood education professionals in our community are essential for fostering that growth in our future generation. Yet many of them struggle to get the financial, professional, and personal support they need to thrive in the career that they are passionate about. we need to support the mental health and the financial stability of our childcare workforce in a way that attracts and retains the best. The next focus area is healthy children. And our vision is that all families will have access to be able to practice healthy living habits, high quality healthcare services, routine screenings, and extra support for high risk needs. Accessing healthcare is a challenge in most rural communities, and Humboldt County is no exception. While this is not an easily solved problem, there is an urgency to find creative ways to help families access adequate care for medical, dental, and mental health. We also want to find proactive approaches to the overall healthy living to address some of the systemic health issues that our community faces. By focusing on reducing our ACEs, or adverse childhood experiences, we can have a huge and lasting impact on the overall health of our entire community right now, as well as in the future for breaking that cycle in the generational component. And our last focus area, I know I feel like a fire hydrant, but we've got one more. Our vision for enrichment activities is that we want Eureka families to have easy access to a variety of academic, social, emotional, and physical enrichment experiences. So beyond the home and childcare and school environments, kids need a variety of enriching experiences and environments to grow and play. Eureka has a lot of that, from our access to nature, to our amazing art scene, to the phenomenal programs that our community services department puts on. But we know that there are gaps that we can fill. Something that came up a lot in our conversations was that Eureka needs more indoor and affordable spaces for kids to be kids, especially during the rainy season. And another thing we want to support is the academic growth of our children in Eureka. The test scores show that 60% of third graders are not reading at grade level, and only 32% of students are meeting grade level expectations when it comes to math. And while test scores only show a fraction of what's actually happening in the classroom, we want to support the initiatives that our schools are already doing and come around to provide additional support and mentoring so that our kids can thrive academically. Investing in our children is not just a sentimental idea worthy of lip service to look good. This needs to be an essential strategy as we move forward in addressing the systemic issues that our community faces. This strategic plan is a great start to that conversation. But when we talk about changing this story for the city of Eureka and better supporting our kids, we need everyone at the table. We need our child care development professionals, as well as our neighborhood watch organizations, our emergency responders, our city officials, our churches, our nonprofits, and our business owners to come and stand up to better support our families and our children. On behalf of all of the people who are a part of making this strategic plan happen, we invite you to shift your perspective about the ways that investing in children and families can make a positive impact here in Eureka. We encourage you to proactively support the organizations and initiatives that are already working to provide Eureka with great environments for our children and families. And we can ask you to consider the ways in which you can take action and be a champion of families and children in Eureka. Together, we will make a difference. Thank you.
Yay. Does anybody have any questions?
I do have a question. It's sort of a comment masquerading as a question, but I feel like I can ask it anyway. I was wondering why it's just listed as to accept this rather than to adopt it. I know that's perhaps an academic distinction, but anyone want to speak
think certainly the idea was that this would be presented to the council and that you would adopt it as city policy. Certainly there's kind of broad goals here that I think as you move forward, these will make their way both into the city's strategic visioning and into the budget process. But certainly this provides kind of this roadmap for pushing this issue forward. So I think you could do it as approval of the document.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Councilman Castellano?
Just quick framing with first, I'm very excited about this, and I really appreciate all the work that's gone into it. I'm curious, there's things that I could imagine adding to it, or like, is there a process for that? It's been kind of presented as a complete plan, which is really nice, and so then it's just kind of I'm just curious process-wise, like if we like for instance the Eureka Wellbeing Survey that HSU wants to partner with us on doing seems like it could be an aspect of this plan, but is that something we should formalize or?
That's a good question. So as I was working on this, we have, I think I have about 12 pages of actionable items that we didn't actually put in the plan. But I never saw that as something that we wouldn't do. These were just priorities. So I will leave it to the process people to tell me, is there a process if we wanted to work on a project that was in?
I think you can certainly treat this as kind of a living, breathing document that will that you can add to, and I think as you certain things are accomplished as well, and see what's important to maybe each year do some maybe additional changes to it. But I think it certainly provides the roadmap to work from.
And I definitely think with the different categories, we could probably find a category that they fit under almost any project at this point. Do you have any other questions? All right. Do you have any comments from the audience?
Good evening. My name is Kathy Montaigne. I'm the Executive Director of North Coast Children's Services, and we have about 250 children in Eureka in various neighborhoods and communities throughout the Eureka area. And it's been a wonderful experience to work with Susan and her team to develop this document, because it realistically supports and identifies the state of children's services in our city. So I think you could take it and use it because it's so current. A few years ago in Arcata, and our administrative offices are located in Arcata, the mayor there, his name was Victor Schaub. He was an attorney as well as the mayor of Arcata. And he very wisely took an initiative like this kind of under his umbrella. And one of the things that he did was at council meetings when things were being considered, he had asked the question, and how will this affect the children? And that was a very simple criteria to help us think about our community as a whole and families and citizens. So you might look at something very simple like that. We can get very technical and bureaucratic at times, so it's nice to be simple. The other thing I wanted to let you know is that recently we identified the area around the library and all the way down to Target as an underserved sort of a childcare desert. And that empty property across from the library is going to be a preschool. So we are just starting to work with the architects. It'll probably take us, months and months and months, but we will be serving children there, and our vision is kids from that neighborhood, their parents will walk them to school or they'll push them in strollers, and they'll be there for the day. They'll have 3 meals and a lot of support and a lot of fun, and will be the first step in that neighborhood. And one reassuring thing, I met with a number of neighborhood businesses probably about a month ago, and they all kind of went around and shared about what it's like to be in the neighborhood, and and what we could expect and how excited they were to have us there. And at the very last, one of the business owners said, "What I've found works really well is compassion." So you have those people, as well as the people you heard from tonight, who are looking forward to creating a wonderful neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Florence Parks. I'm the Executive Director of Big Brothers Big Sisters of the North Coast. I represent mentoring, and on the cusp of National Mentoring Month, January, I'm so excited about this initiative. I am so grateful to Susan for her leadership in this and addressing this and being passionate about it and being inclusive to our entire community to get involved. I also am grateful for the team that she assembled. Allie, you've been wonderful through this process, and it's just been wonderful to see this come together. I also wanted to I also wanted to mention and thank the city manager as he departs. I'm sorry that I didn't have the opportunity to work with you. I am new to the community here, but it sounds like you're leaving a great legacy, and I look forward to working with those that come after you. With that said, I am almost in this community for a year, and I would say that my fresh perspective, I'm coming on a year anniversary, January 6th, that I moved to this area, and we also purchased our first home here in Eureka, so we're planning on staying here for a very long time. I'm excited about this community. I see from the outside looking in a community of people that care and leadership that cares, and I'm challenged by I think every community is challenged by all of the things that we see before us in this era and this time, where with homelessness and our children suffering and needs. And so I love that this brings awareness to the fact that we all need to be part of the solution, and that every volunteer, every person in the community can help with this effort. Just like at the meeting that we had when the Surgeon General came to town, the town hall meeting that was hosted. So many people came to that meeting that there had to be an overflow room added to this meeting. Our citizens care about our community, and that is so refreshing to see. And so I ask everyone to stand up and be part of this. What we do know is that with the adverse childhood experiences, that every child needs positive adults in their lives, and we can be the conduit for that. So a selfish plug, please mentor. Mentor today, mentor on purpose, mentor formally and mentor informally. And thank you for your mentorship of our community. Greg, you go out with a good legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on?
Okay, briefly again, Nick Wilczek, the director of the Humboldt County Library. I would like to thank Susan for all the work, Allie as well. This document looks really fantastic. The library is working on a strategic plan as well, and I think we have a lot of the same priorities. I really look forward to working together with you all on those. As far as the document goes itself, content aside, the document looks really, really fantastic, so nice work on that. And again, I just appreciate everything you're doing, the support you've shown the library, and I'm really excited to see what we can do to serve families in this community more and to serve the goals of the council. So thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Seaman and Eureka City Council. My name is Lisa Dugan, and I'm the Director of Child Support Services for Humboldt and Trinity counties. And I just want to say this document is beautiful. It's inspirational, it's aspirational, and I'm so excited about what you've started here and what we can all be a part of. And I love your taking action and finding ways to be a champion of families and children. A few years ago, we adopted as our bold vision to be the champion for families in flux. Families come to us in times when they are divorcing or separating, and they are looking for balancing out the financial aspects so that their children have access to the finances of both of the parents. And it can be a really tough time. It's, in fact, you saw it in the ACEs scores as one of the times in families' lives and children's lives that creates trauma. So as we shift our perspective, it's really great to have partners like the City of Eureka and all of the nonprofits and agencies that work in this community to continue that shift and to work with families as if it matters what the outcome is for us, not just the monetary exchange, but what's happening in the lives of children. How can we make this process better for the parents who need to go through it? And so I'm just thrilled to be a part of this in whatever way we see in the future going down the road that we can be. And congratulations, this is great work. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ann Hansen. I'm the Executive Director of First Five Humboldt, and I want to offer my heartfelt thanks to Susan and her leadership for bringing this plan forward. I think the plan does a fantastic job of setting out the economic benefits and the community benefits and the long-term health benefits for our children into the future. So it really lays out how Eureka can be a healthier, happier, more successful community in the future. Obviously, I'm from First Five Humboldt, and obviously these are things that we believe, and we are so looking forward to partnering with you. I want to thank you for your leadership in this area. I think you're leading the way for the rest of California in prioritizing children and families, both for the economic benefit, the health benefit, and just the well-being benefit into the future. So thank you.
I'm Carrie Venegas, the Executive Director for Changing Tides Family Services, and I want to say we were very excited to be a part of this from the initial meeting upstairs in the very crowded and well-attended room. We worked with, starting with the GIS person here to map out what actual after-school programs and childcare, all the data that we had, we got to look at on an actual map, and it was exciting to have that first conversation. So seeing the end product come through, and knowing how much work went into this, how many people you spoke with, how many open sessions, it's really exciting because I think the single most important thing is that not a single person said this isn't important. Not a single person didn't recognize how important our families are. And I want to say the way that Eureka leads has such bigger ripple effects. Spending so much time working and being out in Hoopa and out in Yurak country too, we all joke about coming in town and we all joke that everything's centered here, but the honest truth is that most of us are based here. We're in Myrtletown. We're your neighbors in Myrtletown. And what you do here ripples out throughout the county. So as things get considered, as you make this your mantra, then that means that there's even more impetus for every place in our county to adopt this, to say, yes, this is what we're trying to do too. I know that we talked to someone in this process from Fortuna who said, do you know anybody who has set up a system within a city to set up a child care center? And I'm like, indeed I do. And I pointed them right to Eureka because that's something that you guys have accomplished. So the impact of this is so important for the city that we all care about and love, but even more so, the way that it ripples out to every other part of our county has such a huge imprint and such big possibilities. So thank you, Susan. We're looking forward to working with you guys even further and partnering with all the great organizations here that we know and love who care about our families.
Hello there, I'm Darius Calvitis, College of the Redwoods Early Childhood Education Professor. Allie, Susan, this is awesome. I really appreciate all your work on this year. I think one thing that everyone can agree upon is basically kids and families. Everyone loves them. And so this is finally a document that's in paper, that's going to become policy. I like some of the suggestions that were made about how does this affect children? And one thing that I'd like to think about this, it says 2020 to 2025. So there's basically a 5-year period for the council to work toward achieving all these goals. Congratulations on your great work.
Mayor, council members, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. My name is Grace Hammaker. I'm the executive director of the Discovery Museum. I just want to thank you guys so much for looking at this as a holistic effort with everybody involved. Seeing the people who are here this evening, knowing the people who are in the part of this plan really makes my heart swell with how wonderful this community is embracing children. The power of play is something that I find especially important, and to see that throughout all of this is just a really, really great way to even start this next year and this next decade. So thank you guys so much for all of your efforts on this. I'm really excited about this plan.
Any other comments? All right, seeing none, I will bring it back to the council. Councilmember Arroyo.
I have comments. I just want to echo that big shout out to Susan that I heard from almost everyone who spoke. That when Susan was first elected, we were talking, and I'm sure you were talking to others about this idea, and just how are you gonna approach it? And you know, it doesn't really fit squarely within one of our existing departments, and you know, staff already have enough on their plates, and I said it could be a mayoral initiative. Well, I'm not going to take credit for I was like, well, you could do it. But I thought that, frankly, I didn't think you'd have a strategic plan done in a year. So as a side project for the mayor, who, as folks might know, we all have other jobs. So I'm incredibly impressed with the team that you pulled together and the contributions that folks in the community made. I went to your kickoff at the Wharfinger. Maybe that wasn't the kickoff. It sounds like there was a pre-kickoff that I didn't get invited to. But the public meeting about it, that was so wonderful to see the turnout and the passion that people brought. And so many of the folks in this room were there. And I can see that, and I remember talking to a lot of people who just had the most amazing work to share. And I realized that so many of the folks who support children and families in this community are really the unsung heroes. And if you don't directly access those services, you might not know about the incredible impact they're making. And so this really highlights that. And I just want to say I'm so impressed, Susan, that you pulled this all together and that your team has pulled this together. And I think that it would honor the hard work that you did by potentially putting it on a future agenda item. I would just suggest as a consent item for adoption in some more formal way, so that we can say that this is in fact our set of goals that we have adopted, and then it would become added to, because the Eureka Family and Children's Initiative was an element of our city strategic plan to support you in doing that, then the implementation of these goals over the next 5 years would then be something that's codified after we're no longer on the council, and I would like that. I would like to give the future council this to work on. So I think that is a potential direction we could take to formalize our acceptance of this a little bit more. And I also noticed that there were other things that could be added. And I don't think that keeps us from doing them, but I do like that it's something that feels achievable in 5 years, given that we don't have, unlike the county, we don't have our own Department of Health and Human Services that's tasked with carrying out some of these kinds of actions. So I think it is a nice, achievable slate of action items that we could in fact do within 5 years, while also doing all the work that the city does already. So those are my comments and kind of wishes, and I just am so grateful for you pulling this together.
And Mayor, we do believe you can note that as an acceptance and adoption tonight. So.
Okay. There you go. Do we have any more comments, or do you want to make motion then to adopt? Is that what that was?
I'll move that we accept and adopt the strategic plan for the Eureka Family and Children's Initiative.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion and pick somebody for a second. And all in favor? Oh, wait, and discussion? Yeah?
I think just because we're excited about it, we're like, oh, let's pipe in. Yeah, I mean, just echoing the appreciation and congratulations and extending that outward to the wider community that really brought forth so much to this plan. It really reads in the detail and the quotes and the potential partnerships that are also outlined in this plan, which I'm excited to see how those kind of flesh out in the upcoming years. And it's really exciting to have you all here as potential partners in the future. So I look forward to that. And yeah, my life in Humboldt started teaching preschool and then working with children who were at-risk children or children who had challenges. So, and I love doing that work, and I definitely, experienced both. I worked at a preschool that was a subsidized preschool program, and so really experienced the struggles of parents, who really needed childcare and really needed support, and then also of children who, and just the wonder and amazement of children and how much we can nurture that, and so it's exciting to see this kind of brought to the civic level. So thank you very much.
Actually, I want to say one thing, just because Darius, I think, said everybody loves kids. And the fact is, everybody doesn't love kids. And the fact is, you don't even need to love kids to understand how important it is that our kids are taken care of. And I think that was something I really wanted to, I tried to make clear a lot, is that it doesn't have to be for your kid. That the kids that you like the least are the kids that need the most help. And so you'll all benefit from it. And everybody doesn't want to have children, and I guess I could just want to make that point too, that this is not saying that in order to have a meaningful life you have to have kids. That is also not the case. I'm just saying that the kids that are here, we want to take care of them, and we want them to be healthy and happy, so our community will be. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and Councilman Messner?
I am very excited about this. This is something we've talked about quite a bit, and really appreciate all the work that you've done, Allie, as well. And I know we've discussed that broader base, like maybe a website or something that could highlight those things. I know that takes quite a bit of time, and you mentioned that. But I think that would be really beneficial for the whole community to just see all the things that we're doing and be able to access them. The more really knowledge needs to be accessible for people to be able to do it. And so I'm excited about what that can look like, and that we can take some time to really make that available to people in the community so they can see what's, like a number of people stood up and talked about the things that they're doing, and I could list things that we're doing, and so just being able to access those things is really important. With MOPS and single moms, and in the community, and just how are we servicing all these different places, and there are things happening. So being able to access that would be really great. And we had one woman come up and talk about how she's new to the community, and when you come to a new community, how do you find out about things like that? And is it just word of mouth, or is there some place we could be pointed to for those resources? So it's really exciting.
All right.
I have so many thoughts going through my head. I'm not sure which ones will come out. I read this plan cover to cover, and I am just so grateful and thankful. I think, one of the reasons that I work in education is because of this very thing. I grew up in a not so it was less than positive experience as growing up, and so the opportunity to be able to share that with other people and to show that you can get better has been a huge piece of my own healing and my own recovery. But what I wanted to say was I think that I love the idea that there's this plan now that really recognizes the importance of 0 to 5. I think that that's been important, and people have recognized that to a degree. But knowing that that is the age where we really are learning and how to, and when you grow up in a traumatic experience, where your parents are doing crazy things or you're just not taken care of and all those different things, it's so critical to have someone, one person, one grown-up, one thing that can kind of lead you forward, to kind of give you, or at least help you to recognize that you are not invisible and you are important and valued. And so that's how I see this plan. I think that there's a lot of moving pieces that are going to bring that together for a lot of our youth, and I really appreciate that. And I was so grateful when you first brought it up, and I just had this knowing that you're going to get it done. You just have this way about you that you just get stuff done, and you're passionate about things, and I really, it's very clear in your behaviors that this is something that means a lot to you, and you've got great kids, and that's another benefit. So I just so many things, and I'm hopeful that with the adoption of this policy and with getting it out, like you were talking about, Allie, about having these conversations, that more people in our community are going to be willing to pick up an oar and to get on board. And that could be teaching reading, that could be showing up to an event, there are plenty of opportunities for people to get involved, and it benefits all of us. And I think, we've been really working hard on this whole business of people up here. We've got this whole group of homeless population, drug-addicted people that have experienced this kind of negative, challenging childhood. And so getting at it from the root, I think it's going to be really beneficial. And in the next 20 years, I expect that we're going to see some incredible changes. And I think that we already are. And I'm really grateful for that too. That's one of the many things, there's many things I love about our community, but that is one of them, is that we do not lack the ability and the desire to be supportive of each other and to build each other up. We do have a few that really don't participate in that, but for the most part, our community is resilient and wants to be better, and people are willing to put themselves out there to do that. So I appreciate all the work that you guys do, and all the work that you guys do, and that our community is doing all the time. And it's so important. So thank you, Mayor.
And also thank you everybody who came tonight too. I know that especially people who work with kids have very little time to get out. And that's one thing I've always said is the reason kids have fewer advocates is because people who are taking care of them are busy taking care of them, and so it's hard for them to get to meetings. So thank you very much. So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
4 yes votes, Councilmember Allison absent, motion carries.
Thank you very much, everybody. And now we are at our final part of the meeting, where we have our city manager report.
Yes, you do, Mayor. I spent some time today thinking about what I'd want to say at my last council meeting, and then, but I've got to start off script instead, because I was really not expecting this tonight. It really was surprising, a bit embarrassing, but certainly much appreciated the comments from Betty Chin and Charlotte, the chiefs, Fred Van Vleck, certainly, and from the council. I did only have 35 years of experience when I started here, but yes, I am over 40 now. I wouldn't want people to think that I'm older than what I am. And I do have to say, I see my next door neighbor, Ann Clark, here, and I really don't know why she's here. So, okay. But no, what I would like to say is to thank the mayor and council, as well as past council members and Mayor Yeager. We have a great team here. we came up with Team Eureka t-shirts a couple years ago. But one thing is that we're more than just a collection of city departments, each operating independently and competing for resources. This really is a team that involves our partner agency, Humboldt Bay Fire, and each of our city departments, and they all recognize and have just a great commitment to the community. And I'm not one to focus on what we've done and accomplished in the past 5.5 years, but rather what we plan on achieving in the next year and future years, even if I'm not a part of that. I think tonight having the Family and Children Initiative on this agenda was for me a great segue for my last council meeting, because if we want to really address the issues of addiction and homelessness, it begins with strengthening families. So I think this is going to be an important piece moving forward. Our Uplift program is certainly strong, and the things we're doing to improve that. The Canopy Walk, which we're anxious to get started on, as we're trying to still put together some of those last pieces of financing. Our tourism marketing, we made a significant change this past year. Pretty soon we're going to be coming out with this community branding effort and launching into our tourism marketing. I look at the great strides that have been made in the arts community with our mural festivals, our strategic arts plan, utility box art, and just a number of other things that are going on. And certainly helping our businesses to grow and develop. I think that list I could continue on and on, but I'm positive that with the leadership of the mayor and the council, working with the community, working with our management team and our employees, that Eureka is well poised to take on these challenges in the future. So from my standpoint, I thank you for the opportunity to have been city manager here the last 5.5 years. I've greatly enjoyed it, but I have to say, if I knew my last meeting was going to be so much fun, I might have done this a few years ago. So.
Now it's time for council reports, so don't leave yet. Should we start with Councilmember Burgell this time? Okay, we're gonna start with Councilmember Castellano.
Okay, well, first, just the things I've done. Yeah, I'll do that. Let's see, I attended the housing luncheon at Jefferson Community Center that was specifically on the aging housing stock in Eureka and in Humboldt County. The Clara Mayberry Park grand opening, tree planting with Keep Eureka Beautiful. Went and gave a very short pep talk at the Pathway to Payday at the Betty Chin Center, the Library Benefit Foundation. I volunteered with Uplift and the Ink People Board meeting. And yeah, just in regards to City Manager Sparks' last meeting, it's just been a delight to come on board to council, and I'm thankful that I got the opportunity to really be part of Team Eureka with you on board and here, and yeah, I deeply respect you and appreciate the presence you bring to meetings and the thought you bring to my questions and and the larger questions of the community. So yeah, just thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Just working for Eureka, working for people with you, and I'm excited to see what you're up to. I hope that you adventure forth and enjoy time with family and aren't too much of a stranger. But yeah, just it's been a real pleasure, and I'll definitely carry forth what I learned from you and with you as I continue forward. So thanks again.
Good job. All right. So Pathway to Payday, I do have to say it was pretty amazing to watch those 23 graduates and be able to hear about all 22 of them moving forward in their with work opportunities, and really excited for them and what changes that will make in their life. And I think that community services, as they continue to work on that area of need in our community, it will greatly impact our future. So I really appreciate that, and it was fun to just be there and celebrate with them. Also, with our newly sworn in 5 policemen this last week, or I guess that was only yesterday. Oh my goodness. It goes by so fast. So much has happened between then and them for me. But so I'm so proud of all of them and our police force, and just the work that you guys do, and the great continued just effort that you're making in our community. Really appreciate our police force, and so I wanted to highlight that too, and just thank you for bringing them on. They look like a great group of people, and 2 of them who've actually had some leadership in that area in the past, which is kind of fun in the community, and now they're moving up. So also, we had a great truckers parade. For those of you who were able to watch it, hopefully you were able to get out in the rain. We actually put up like a little tent, and we had about 40 people right in front of our house under the tent, crammed in, bringing hot cider out to everyone. But it was a great thing, and I'm glad that it didn't disappear. So thank you to all of you who supported that and were a part of that. Also in the community, I think it's an important thing for our community to continue those kinds of traditions. I also just wanted to make I was at the league priorities setting for 2020. There's some leadership that went down last week to determine what the policies and focus would be for the next year, and so that we came back with that, and that's going to be exciting for the new year, what our focuses will be. And of course they include a lot of things that we have talked about tonight, but the improving the supply and affordability of housing, advocating for increased funding to prevent homelessness and assisting individuals experiencing homelessness, addressing fiscal sustainability, which is so important, and Greg Sparks has done a lot of work in our city in regard to that, strengthening community and disaster preparedness, public safety and resiliency, and addressing public safety concerns of California cities, which also I'm really just honored to be appointed by the president of the league to the Public Safety Committee this year. It's a really hard committee to get into because no one wants to get off of it, so there's never openings. But the president can appoint a few people to it, so I was really thankful to be able to get onto that. I just found out a couple days ago that had happened. And then I wanted to also remind people that Eureka City Hall 60-year anniversary is tomorrow. Thursday at 2 p.m. And it will be here in this building. So if anyone wants to come out and celebrate that, that would be fun. I think we'll all be here. Also, September 21st, the Shop with a Cop at Sequoia Conference Center at 8 a.m. is also happening, which is a really fun event every year. And then I just wanted to say, Greg, I really have always appreciated you and so grateful for you and your leadership, your mentorship of so many, and also your collaborative spirit and the way you work with people and really empowering others. I really appreciate you, and I think I've said a lot to you personally, but I know that you have really impacted a lot of people in this community. I think even by the showing tonight and the different people who've stepped up and said stuff to you, it really shows your leadership and the way you've impacted in a very short amount of time, 5 years. So thank you for all you do, and we will miss you.
Great. Well, I'll start with my praise of Greg, and then I'll continue it on Friday. I'm going to miss Eureka's City Hall's birthday party. I'll explain why in a moment. Big cliffhanger there. I have been so fortunate to get to work with Greg ever since becoming an elected official more than 5 years ago. And it has been amazing to see you handle disparate views and different personalities, and it has really taught me a lot about patience and composure and steadfastness, and just keeping kind of a focus on the mission, as well as creating good plans and then following those plans and being able to say when things get hectic, that this is our plan and here are the steps we're taking to get there. It's really helped me understand city government better and understand how something so daunting can be achieved in, whatever that daunting thing is, can be achieved in incremental steps. And so I'm so grateful for that. I think it's made me a better representative to the community, to get to work with you and to be able to model some of my behavior after the tone that you set. So really, as a leader, I think you've set a good tone, and as Mayor Seaman said, let people be themselves, which is really cool, because we're all here doing so much work, and we get so much flack. Sometimes it feels like nothing but flack. And yet, so just to be able to come to work or come to a meeting and be yourself is a joy. And so I appreciate that you don't try to shape people into a mold that they're not going to be. So it's been really quite a pleasure to work with you. I'll say more and probably try to embarrass you on Friday. We'll see. I can tell that you're already thrilled about having everyone talk about you. But yes, and it's so that's all I'm going to say for now about what an honor it's been to work with you. But please know that there's more. As far as my council report, I just have a couple of sort of personal notes that overlap with the city efforts. I have now formally stepped down from the Humboldt Trails Council Board, which I served on for more than 8 years. For years, I was the president. For a number of years, there was a very tiny board. And now I leave the organization in great hands with a really robust board of folks who are really committed to seeing the completion of the Bay Trail between Arcata and Eureka, mostly working with the county on that and advocating for its completion. Working on the Great Redwood Trail and it moving forward, and that vision with Senator Mike McGuire sort of leading that vision, but the Humboldt Trails Council is going to advocate for it locally. It's been a great organization to be a part of, and I encourage folks to find out about them. They're the umbrella organization for the Volunteer Trail Stewards, so if you've ever gone to a Volunteer Trail Stewards workday, you can thank the Humboldt Trails Council for doing all the boring stuff, like providing insurance and money and all the things that are less exciting than going out and doing the actual work days. And so that's been a great part of my time in Eureka and in Humboldt has been serving on that organization. Also, I serve in the Coast Guard, and this last month I was promoted, and I'm also re-enlisting. So I'm committing myself to more years of being stationed here right on Humboldt Bay and serving as a marine science technician, doing oil spill pollution prevention and response, as well as commercial fishing vessel safety exams and a number of other safety related also kind of sometimes boring behind the scenes things. So I think it's great to recognize that not all the coasties locally do the exciting front page news stuff. There's a lot of people behind the scenes making sure that we prevent hazards from happening, and so that's a large part of my role in the Coast Guard is prevention, more so than response. And through that, I get to go to a lot of training, and one of the things that I'm doing this week is going to a training that the Office of Emergency Services is putting on in Blue Lake that's about the interface between an emergency operations center and an incident command post. So the sort of federal FEMA framework and the local Office of Emergency Services framework and how those work together and how they're different. And so that'll be very useful for me, both as an elected official and a Coast Guard member, to sort of understand how that would play out locally in the case of another emergency, particularly, earthquake, tsunami, or major oil spill is likely the situation where I would be in my Coast Guard capacity as well as my city capacity. And that one, it's too late for additional folks to join in, but there will be a training in May that's a 3-day, so it's a pretty big commitment, but I'm planning to attend, and it is about the local government response and put on by the Office of Emergency Services, so I'll make sure to share that with fellow council members a little closer to the date, but it's in late May, and I'll be planning to attend that. Beyond that, I don't have any other announcements.
Well, I'm going to keep it brief. I've done a lot the last couple weeks since the last council meeting, and most of it's on my Facebook page. If you're interested, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about all of that. Yeah, so 3 more years would be my goal. I really am going to miss you, Greg Sparks. You've been a great mentor to me and a great friend. The thing that I appreciate about you most is that you are one of the most authentic, genuine people that I have ever met. And I appreciate that. And I think that through your leadership, I've become a better person. And I appreciate all those days in the old days when I was annoying you about the marsh every day, and going out there and causing problems. And you were just, very... oh, Kim, you were just so very nice, but I knew that really wasn't how you felt. Well, I kind of figured you did, but, we ended up working it out. Even though Greg did tell me that whole project was doomed to fail. Doomed to fail was the exact words. It ended up being one of the best things that we've done in our city in a while. So I really appreciate that. And yeah, I'm gonna miss the calmness that you bring, the listening ear, and the you're someone who's genuinely interested in not only in the city but in us, and I think in staff as well. It's not just a job, and that's very clear. So yeah. You have a gift for bringing people together. There's just so much, and I'm not going to get all weepy about it because I'm happy for you. I'm not, and I'm happy for us, but I'm not really. But I kind of am. I will be in about 2 more weeks. After we kind of move on to the next level. It's just hard. It's hard in the hallway. It's the transitions are the hard part, and. It's moving through that. I think we're all going to be okay. So, and I want to do, congratulations, Councilmember Arroyo. That's awesome. I didn't know you were re-enlisting and all of that stuff. That's awesome. I appreciate all the work that you do outside of here as well. So, anyway, enough about you, Greg. Just know that you will be missed, and I'm sure that you'll be called upon from time to time. That's it.
One final note, I have more of the packages out there, so if you're still in the audience and you want to take a stack back to your office.
Wait, I have one more thing.
Of the children's things, you could do that. Kim's got one more thing.
So apparently we have a visitor or a guest from Pathways to Payday here. Lucy, if you'd like to come up and just say a couple of words about your experience, we'd love that.
I'm so excited you're here. I told everyone to come to the council meeting.
Well, here she is.
Thank you.
You're
I'm
welcome.
so glad you made it.
Hello. Yes, my name is Lucy, and I did recently do the Pathways to Payday program, and I've had a couple of second interviews, which is great, and I've noticed that in the Uplift program, most everyone has moved on to working, which is really exciting to see. And I not only appreciated all of the input from all of you and everyone just working every day, but the mutual support of people working. Sometimes someone might get grumpy or discouraged, and there was always someone to nudge them, encourage them, point them right back into a positive direction, and I really appreciate that. It's a very humbling experience, and
also, as a parent, I would like to suggest and mention that sometimes when we experience trauma, it's really appreciated to have a calm response and have a welcoming, inviting inquiry rather than a lot of questions. So I hope that that can kind of be part of this wonderful vision you have for children and families. It's very important. So anyway, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy, for being here. Good luck.